thank you. Well, state aid is already available for the victims of the tsunami in Hawaii. Now, local homeowners and businesses are hoping that the federal government comes through with funds to help with the cost of cleaning up. And as you first heard here on KITV4 News this morning, Lieutenant Governor Brian Schatz went to Washington, D.C. to advocate for funds and other Hawaii issues. Joining us now to talk about what he found out is Lieutenant Governor Brian Schatz. And Brian, thanks for joining us here this morning.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you with us. Let's talk about the presidential declaration of disaster. You went to Washington, D.C. When will we find out if he does declare that?
Relatively shortly. We don't know the precise timeline, but what we can say is that Ed Texera, who was just on TV talking about the process, worked with our Adjutant General and the Region 9 portion of FEMA. And so we submitted the governor's request for a presidential declaration, and now that's en route to the National FEMA headquarters, and then it goes to the White House for the president's consideration. And, you know, we think everything's in order. We've done it properly. We did it in cooperation with FEMA, so we're pretty confident that that declaration will be made in the next several weeks.
But there is a chance that it doesn't happen. In that case, what happens? Because the state had approximately $8.5 million worth of damage to public roads and things like that. What happens if that doesn't come through?
Well, there's never a guarantee in life, but we do feel very confident that we met the threshold for public assistance, is what they call it, and also that we did the application properly. But the key is, without that disaster declaration from the president, then we're not eligible for that $8.5 million in reimbursement for fixing the public facilities, the harbors, the roads, and the other things that happen.
And basically the state deficit becomes larger if that doesn't happen. Let's talk about the aid that is being given to some of the people on the Big Island. Loans at very low interest rates, 2%, 3%.
Right.
Is that guaranteed if the president doesn't declare it?
That's already out there. The Small Business Administration was out there in Kona yesterday, and they were reaching out to people who had any kind of private property damage. You could be a renter, you could be a landowner as an individual, or a landowner as a company, and they're eligible for any kind of a disaster relief loan, 30-year, 2.5%. So if they want to get back on their feet and use the SBA loan, then that's already available to them. It's not contingent on anything else.
And last week when we stopped by our studios, we talked about lost tourism
right.
because of the tsunami in Japan. You mentioned a 15 to 20% drop in Japanese tourism. 2 days later, HTA, Hawaii Tourism Authority, comes in, and they said that the numbers are even worse than that.
That's right.
They mentioned they saw a 25% drop and possibly 45% next month. How come the numbers changed so dramatically in just 2 days?
Well, I think what you saw was group cancellations and sort of a lagging effect. So the first few weeks, people didn't actually cancel their already planned trips. But now what you're seeing is people either pushing out or canceling their trip altogether. I had a good chat with Mike McCartney from the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and he feels confident that we'll come through this, that this is, I mean, the main thing that people need to remember is that this is a temporary situation. We will come through this. Japan will add back those flights, and we'll continue our strong economic relationship. But there's no doubt we're going through a difficult period with respect to Japanese tourism.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Brian Schatz, we thank you for joining us here this morning, and
thank you.
Welcome back from your trip to Washington, D.C.
Good to see you both.
And if you want to, we also want to remind you that KITV4 is hoping that you'll help out with Kokua for Japan. We're taking part in the event on April 10th. It's a benefit concert at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. Concert will feature many performers, including Willie Nelson, CK, and Mailani, who's actually performing with us live in studio in the next hour. And to see the entire list of performers and to find out what other ways you can help out, you can head over to the tsunami or earthquake section of our website, KITV.com.